The Caribbean hasn't felt this tense in decades. Warships on the horizon, fighter jets overhead, and a superpower like the U.S. staring down a crisis-hit nation. This is the U.S. Venezuela crisis, and it's spiraling fast. Since early September, the Trump administration has dramatically escalated pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's government, moving from economic sanctions to direct military action. 21 Venezuelan boats hit, 87 people killed. And why is the US attacking Venezuela? Washington claims it's about stopping drug trafficking, but not a shred of evidence has been released to support that claim. Now, with more than 15,000 US military personnel deployed to the region, the largest Caribbean presence in the decades, the prospect of a full-scale attack on Venezuela feels increasingly real. On one hand, the President Trump has authorized covert action against Venezuela, warned the US could very soon expand attacks from the offshore boats to target inside the country. On the other hand, he hints of possible meeting with Maduro. Venezuelan president claims that the real objective of US is regime change and not counter-narcotics. He has warned that Venezuela could resist any invasion attempt. Reports indicate he is taking extra security precautions, frequently changing locations and cell phones, and relying more heavily on Cuban bodyguards and counterintelligence officers. And many experts agree the same. Venezuela is not a source of illicit fentanyl to the US, and experts agree that Colombia and Mexico are far more significant players in the global narcotics trade. But the Trump administration justifies its action as necessary to stop the flow of illegal drugs into the United States, saying it's a national security threat. So what could be the possible reason behind this military escalation? One definite reason is Venezuela's strategic importance. Venezuela has oil, gold, and gas. The South American country holds approximately 303 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, more than even Saudi Arabia. However, Venezuela's oil industry has collapsed. It exported just $4 billion worth of crude oil in 2023, and one of the reasons is US's 2005 sanctions. Other reasons include corruption and mismanagement. The control of Venezuelan oil could shift global energy markets and reduce US dependence on West Asian suppliers. So that is, whoever controls Venezuela's future ideally controls a potential energy giant. And it's not just oil. Venezuela has become a flashpoint in great power competition. China and Russian companies have significant stakes in Venezuelan oil fields. Iran and Cuba are embedded in its intelligence networks. Any US action doesn't just hit Caracas, it sends shock waves to Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran. So this crisis didn't appear overnight. It has been building for a decade. Sanctions began under Barack Obama, expanded dramatically under Trump's first term, and continued under Joe Biden, only easing briefly before being reimposed. By the time Trump returned to office this year, Venezuela's economy has contracted by more than 75%. Hyperinflation had soared past 1 million %, 7 million people had fled the country, and the political stalemate seemed impossible to break. Across Latin America, governments now find themselves caught in an impossible position. They oppose Maduro's authoritarian rule, but they also fear and reject US military intervention. Mexico urges dialogue, Brazil warns that a war could destabilize the region, Colombia is terrified, another massive refugee wave. Argentina's new government has taken a harder line against Maduro, but even it won't openly support military action. Meanwhile, Venezuela, for its part, itself is not prepared for a direct clash with the United States. Its military is large but weakened. Its aircraft, navy vessels, and tanks are aging. And its paramilitary collectivos could make any post-invasion scenario chaotic and violent. Even more unpredictable is the loyalty of the armed forces. Venezuela has a long history of coups, mutinies, and divided commands. Hugo Chavez, before Maduro, first became famous after leading a failed coup in 1992, and even after becoming president, he was briefly removed in a coup in 2002. Maduro has also faced instability, surviving at least 9 military mutinies since he took power. So in a crisis, it is unclear who would support him and who might use the moment to remove him. So now what happens next depends on decisions made in Washington and Caracas in the coming days. Trump could escalate further, launching strikes inside Venezuela and risking a conflict with no clear endgame. Diplomacy, while unlikely, is still possible, especially after the recent phone call between the two leaders. Or the situation could slide into a tense, prolonged standoff that keeps Venezuela's economy frozen and pushes even more people to flee. Whatever path emerges, the stakes are enormous. A military conflict would destabilize the entire region, strain U.S. relations with major powers, and deepen an already catastrophic humanitarian crisis. It would shape global energy markets, reshape Latin America politics, and test international norms on the use of force. The recent phone call between Trump and Maduro suggests diplomacy remains possible, though the gap between the positions appears vast.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't
it?
do that.
Mr. President,
Any deal would likely require Maduro's exit from power, which he has shown no willingness to accept. For more such videos, subscribe to the Hindu's YouTube channel.